Welcome to White Slash. I'm glad to have you on my channel. Let's jump in today's story. My dad and mom got divorced when I was around 5, and my mom passed away shortly after from cancer. It was known that my dad left my mom for a much younger woman that became my stepmom, even before my mom passed away. Let's call her Stephenie for the sake of the story. Stephenie and my dad met when she was around 20 and my dad was 30. She worked as a bartender at the bar my dad frequented, and I guess that marks the start of their love story. My mother was heartbroken on top of being sick when she found this out, and fought like a trooper to get rid of my dad out of her life because, understandably so, she did not want any part of him in her life, especially during her last days. My dad moved in with Stephenie even before they got divorced and started his new life with her, completely ignoring the existence of me and my mom until my mom passed away and the courts got to him for my custody. Well, I was made to move in with my dad and Stephenie from my grandparents' place where I previously lived with my mother. I was made to move because my grandparents were growing old and could obviously not take care of 5-year-old me. Well, things were not good from the start. 20-year-old Stephenie, who could barely take care of herself, was forced to look after me, and she did not like it. All the responsibilities fell on my dad because of her immaturity, and to put it nicely, they tried to do the bare minimum. As I grew older, I learned how to take care of myself and was left alone to do so by Stephenie and my dad, who eventually had 2 kids of their own, and yeah, I was always made to feel like I didn't fit in and wasn't one of them. Thankfully, I was around amazing friends throughout school, and also my mom's side of the family who kept in touch with me all throughout my childhood up till now. My contact with my parents started reducing as I grew older, and by the time I was in college, it was just limited to calls every once in a while. I had become far more closer to my mom's side of the family than my dad. My dad didn't bother to contact me as he had a brand new family of his own and clearly did not want me in his new life. By the time I was in my 3rd year of college, I met my now husband, Abel. Not that it matters, but important for the story. Abel is African American, and honestly, I'm not sure why, but as our relationship progressed and we were around the 2nd year mark, I decided to introduce him to my dad and stepmom. Just by hearing the fact that he was an African American, my stepmom blew up. She said how I was giving up my culture and how I probably chased after black men and many more derogatory things. I genuinely had no idea that Stephenie was full of a mindset like this. And I hadn't even gotten to telling her the fact that he also had a child from a previous relationship. It just clicked to me why my dad and her had gotten along so well, due to their disgusting mindsets. That is when I decided to completely cut off contact with them. I was not only enraged but also sad about the people they were and did not want that kind of negativity in my life. This only lasted until I got married and gave birth to my daughter about 2 years ago. This is the first grandchild to them, and they went up and down to try to meet my daughter, went as far as to apologize for everything they had done to not only me, but also Abel. I thought they both had genuinely learned the lesson, so decided to allow them to meet my family. Everything seemed okay. They lived hours away from us, so would only visit a couple of times a year, and for a short time, they were pleasant to my husband and stepdaughter at that time, and that is all that mattered to me. This pleasantness came to an end when they moved closer to us during the pandemic, due to the fact that they wanted to cut off on costs. Things seemed to be okay at first, as the contact still remained less during the pandemic until everything started to open back up and my husband and I had to go back to work. We were struggling extremely hard to find a trustworthy babysitter. The neighborhood that we live in is nice, but the one close to us is poor and a lot of lower middle class people live there. It is also rampant in robbery and other petty crimes, so you all can understand how much of a difficult time I must have had to find a good babysitter for my children. So, to my surprise, when my stepmom asked if she could contribute and babysit my children, since she took an early retirement from her teaching job. Since all my step-siblings had moved out, I was kind of in relief because I thought as a mother to children, what is the worst she could do? I was so wrong for having that mentality and convincing Abel to have the same because what she did next left my mouth wide open in disbelief. She babysat my children for about 2 months, all in my house by the way. I would drop off the kids to school and she would pick them up and drive them to my house where she would take care of them. My children seemed pretty okay, not too happy or not too sad about this arrangement. This arrangement worked perfectly well. Abel had even started warming up to my stepmom and dad, initiating conversations with them instead of just being formal. I was happy because I thought finally I was going to have a family of my own, but I guess that wish must have overlooked any red flags until I saw this about 2 days ago. So, like I stated earlier, our house is extremely close to an unsafe neighborhood, and recently I heard about a few more cases that took place in houses close to us. So we made the decision to install security cameras not only outside the house but also inside the house, in the living room and common shared areas. The security cameras only were turned on when Abel and I weren't home, so yes, we turned them on when Stephenie was taking care of the children, as we thought it would be best for the safety of the children and her both. I completely forgot to tell her about the same however, and this is what acted as the blessing and the curse. Within the first day itself, I was shocked to hear Stephenie call my stepdaughter the N slur, not only once, but thrice, and other derogatory racist things that thankfully had historic references and would not make a lot of sense to a lot of 8-year-olds. The tone of anger still scared my stepdaughter, and it clicked to me all the times my stepdaughter would ask my husband what the N slur meant. I was heartbroken and enraged to say the least, and knew I had to go get my children out of there. I asked my boss if I could leave early, and thankfully I was permitted to. I drove as fast as I could to my house, and my stepmom was surprised to see me. She tried her best to put on an act to show me how amazing of a grandma she was, but I wasn't going to have any of it. I yelled at her, letting her know how disgusting she was for letting race come in the way of children, and that I did not know that she hadn't taken her head out of the gutter. She was shocked and pretended to play dumb, but when I pulled out the security footage, her demeanor completely changed. She started yelling back at me for recording her without her permission, and that she should have never looked after my kids since I was an ungrateful a-hole. I brought up every single thing she thought about me, my kids and my husband, and how I was only with my husband because of his race. I genuinely had no idea where she got this idea from because I truly had never dated anyone with an African American descent before. My kids are extremely nervous seeing this interaction, and I decided they are clearly not safe to be here, at least for the time being. So I kicked my stepmother out and packed some of my kids' things to drive them to my cousin's place, who lives an hour away from us. I called Abel to let him know of this situation, and he is clearly understandably upset with me as he didn't want to trust my parents since the very start. I am extremely guilty as I type this. My children will be staying with my cousin for a while, who is extremely friendly with them. This is all until I can figure out an outcome. I drove myself home to talk to Abel, and I'm waiting for him as I type this. I was advised by my cousin to post here for advice regarding what to do and steps to take. So Reddit, AITA, any advice would be appreciated. Update 1. Hi all. I sat Abel down today, and like I said, he was very disheartened after viewing the footage and was worried about the well-being of our children. I did not clearly mention it earlier, but our youngest, being mixed in color, there were some derogatory statements made against her as well. I am still extremely shaken up by all of this, and as many of you all predicted, the phone calls have started coming by my relatives to give me a piece of their mind. I pick every single one of them because I am angry and tell them that they can pound sand for all I care, but they will never change my mind against my stepmother and dad. My step-siblings are especially mad, and it seems now that they have to look after Stephenie's drama. They all were probably having an amazing time not having to deal with all the drama my stepmom constantly got herself into, until now. I'm honestly unbothered by what anyone thinks or feels about me anymore, as all I'm worried about is my children's well-being. I have decided to go pick my kids up from my cousins, and like a lot of you suggested, have a talk to them call me along with my husband to check if there was something deeper going on. I will update you all once something happens. Update 2. I sat my children down the very same day I wrote the update, and I was so heartbroken to hear everything my children had to tell me. It seems like my guilt only keeps growing as each day passes by. My stepdaughter told me how my stepmother would often make comments about how her sister was better than her because at least she had some white in her, how she wasn't ever going to be loved because of her skin color, and so much more. When we asked her why she did not tell us any of this, her response was that my stepmother had told her that it was what I felt about her, but just couldn't tell her because otherwise her dad would get mad at me. She kept apologizing throughout, and by the end of it all, I was left in tears. My heart shatters for my children as I can only imagine how cruel the world can be, and I genuinely hope to protect these angels from everything possible. The first thing I decided to do was take about a week off from work and take them on a short vacation. I have also enrolled them in therapy, which will start right after we come back from vacation. As for Abel and I, we have decided to also get into much-needed couples counseling for building up boundaries and better communication skills with our children. My phone is still being blown up by my family, especially my dad. All of his texts express disappointment in me, and I feel like it is a bit rich coming from a racist like him. I last spoke to him yesterday, and he went on and on about how I should forgive my stepmom if I truly consider her as my family. I simply tell him that I don't, and I don't consider him as a part of my family either. I feel like this situation has truly taught me how much a part of me wanted my dad to accept me as his own. A part of my childhood is still here with me, craving that my dad accepted me as his own, instead of a fragment of his past that he so desperately wanted to get rid of. I know this is something I need to work on, and it will take a lot of time. As for childcare, I have found a nanny through my cousin who charges extremely high, but it's worth it if it means that my children will be happy, safe, and secure in their own home. I really hope that after this, I will not overlook any red flags when it comes to protecting my children. Thank you all for your amazing support. Opinion 1. NTA. I am so sorry that your children have to face the evils of this world at such a ripe age. They really do deserve so much better than a witch of a grandmother who cannot overlook the color of one's skin to love someone. Please cut her off and get better childcare for your children. Opinion 2. NTA. But you truly need to build better communication with your children. Please consider individual and family therapy for them, and let them know that from time to time that they always have your support. X and I, both 30s, have 2 children together. Our son is 11 and our daughter is 8. X is married to Jenna, and is a stepfather to her 4 children between the ages of 5 and 11. X's second marriage has created quite a complicated dynamic between us and for our children. He finds it impossible to make time for the kids to have their extracurriculars when his stepkids have theirs in different places. So he attempted to force the kids to quit the stuff they like and take other stuff. I stepped in and offered to drive them, but he turned me down. So, the kids do not attend their extracurriculars on Dad's time, which upsets them, but I have tried to make it work, and my ex said no. They really hate that he prioritized his stepkids, keeping theirs, and they dislike the idea that they should do stuff they have no interest in just to do something and make life easier. X has told me they have expressed this to him, and I need to help them see they're being selfish. I told him that was untrue. His argument is they are not close to their step-siblings because of resentment. I told him back then that he should prioritize their interests as much as he does his stepkids, and he ignored me. A couple of months ago, my kids expressed an interest in a particular day summer camp. I spoke to my ex. He said, no way. They needed to go where his stepkids wanted to go, that he would not make his life more difficult. I ended up offering to pay 100% of the cost, which won him over. Kinda. Then, a week ago, he told me he needed me to take his stepkids after camp for 3 hours from now until camp ends. That I have made his life more difficult and I should help him out. I said no. X is pissed. Our bios come to me after camp, but his stepkids go to a paid babysitter, and apparently that's not fair or right when they could save that money. I told him I already took the cost of the camp for our kids because he wanted to make them do one they didn't want to do because it made his life easier. I told him I was not taking his stepkids on top of that. He told me that I am getting in the way of the kids, all bonding as siblings, and I am making the divide more clear. I think he's being ridiculous, and I disagree wholeheartedly with him, saying I am getting in the way of the kids' relationship. He still thinks I'm an a-hole for not taking them, using they're just kids, and they're our kids' family and they'll want them over. My kids don't want more time with their step-siblings. That I know without a doubt. But AITA for not letting his stepkids come to my house after camp? Opinion 1. NTA. You are not the unwilling co-parent to your ex's new family. He can go fishing. You clearly need to do what is best for your own kids. They have enough time with these step-siblings, it seems. And your ex sounds like he is treating yours and his bio kids with less respect than the new kids. I expect there's a shed load of toxic and manipulative behavior going on here. He is using emotional blackmail of what the kids want/need to make you do what he wants. Obvious, since this line of argument just so happens to be what he needs to quote-unquote help him out. What an AH he is. Clearly, you did well making him an ex. Don't let him inveigle his way into controlling your life more than he can through being a co-parent to your shared bio kids. You gotta lay down the boundaries hard and firm so he knows not to cross them. Opinion 2. NTA. Number 1. Don't take over watching his kids for 3 hours a day. I have a feeling that the amount of time and work he expects you to do for free will gradually increase. Number 2. He's pissed about a divide that he's creating because he either doesn't want to upset his spouse by favoring his bio kids, or he's just so stupid that he can't see the more he pushes the kids together, they grow further apart. Opinion 3. Don't understand why he isn't getting the bill for his kids for the camp they want to attend. He is still financially responsible for them whether he is there for them or not. Using you to babysit his stepkids is not your responsibility or problem. He has the nerve to want you to help save him money that is not being contributed to his own children.